The Darkness Below. So over the weekend, I was at a barbecue with friends and we got on the topic of ghosts because recently my husband's coworker shared with him some pictures that she took when she worked at the Stanley Hotel of a ghost in the hallway. They are interesting pictures, but my friend then said, "Oh, I can top that." And then proceeded to tell me that when he worked in a hospital about 10 years ago, him and another nurse were monitoring the cameras on the ICU floor and saw a child running in and out of the rooms. They radioed to the floor staff, but they reported back that they didn't have a child in the ICU at the time. So my friend and another nurse physically went down to the room to investigate, but no one was there. They got back to the nurse station, and the nurse that stayed behind was stunned. She said, "You won't believe what I saw on a monitor after you guys left." She had taken a picture of the monitor and said a girl appeared out of the doorway after you left the room and watched you walk down the hall. Apparently, this story and picture caused a big stir among staff because a couple of days prior, a young girl passed in ICU after an anaphylactic episode. Some initially thought the image looked like her. Then management stepped in and some people signed non-disclosure agreements and had a whole process around this because apparently paranormal activity is a very regular thing at hospitals. This whole story and picture has really captivated me in the past few days. Everything he said is 100% authentic, and I made him text it to me, and it has dated around the time he says the haunting occurred. So what do you think? Is it real? Do these things really happen regularly in hospitals? Let me know. My grandmother, who has passed now, was the most amazing woman I've ever known. I know this gets said often. We all believe our grandparents to be amazing. My grandma was the most loving, kind-hearted, open-minded, religious, and upright woman. She raised 3 children and was the wife of a World War II veteran who had lost both his legs, so she also was his caregiver. She had his hospital bed set up in the living room next to a big picture window so he can look outside and look at their 30 acres of property. She slept in the bedroom next to him so she can hear him, and if he needed anything, he would ring his little bell. Her mother passed away, and soon she started to receive visits from her at night. She decided to tell my dad about this, who is also a man of faith. He asked her what happened when she visits. She replied, "Well, we just talk." He asked, "What about?" And she said, "About anything and everything. We just talk." He said, "Well, next time she visits, ask her in Jesus' name, 'Who are you?'" And she agreed. Not too long later, my grandmother was laying in bed and her mother came to her in the room to visit. She was standing at the end of the bed and they had their talk. And when they were finished for the night, my grandmother said, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm supposed to ask you, in Jesus' name, who are you?" Then, what she thought was her mother transformed into something else and said, "Devil," and disappeared. This year was in April 2006. I was on a night shift duty to a very popular company here in Cebu. I just went on my 1-hour break, and at that time, me and my coworkers were watching a very popular TV show. We were all tuned in because it was the show's finale, and they were going to choose who was the big winner. After the program, me and a close coworker went straight to the working area, but she needed to use the comfort room, so I went with her. This was the first time I was on that side of the facility, where this comfort room was, which was near the office. I saw some co-workers resting in that particular area near the comfort room. As we went inside, she went in the first room and I went in the second. I was inside sitting doing my business when suddenly heard quick footsteps to my door and someone violently shook the door. From what I remember, there wasn't a shadow under the comfort room door when I was sitting there. I looked under the seat. No one was there. The door was being shaken so vigorously. So I shouted, "There's someone in here. Hello?" I said, "I'm in here. Is someone there?" The rattling of the handle and the door shaking was so strong to the extent that the door slightly opened. I peeked out of the opening, and to my horror, I didn't see anyone. I could barely see if there was someone in the bathroom, aside from me and my coworker. I finally opened the door completely to look around to see who has done it, expecting it to be a prank, but once again, no one was there. So I quickly went out of the lavatory and nervously waited for my coworker outside. When she came out, I asked her if she heard or seen the person that shook my door, and what she said next gave me the creeps. She said that she heard it all, but she looked out and she didn't see anyone. We both were physically shaken by the situation. We asked the other coworkers if they came in, but they didn't. In case something else happened, we both ran to our workstations, not mentioning what had happened. I never felt fear like that ever in my life. This was definitely a hair-raising ordeal. Is it true that strange things happen at night? Well, for me, I never thought so at the time. You see, I'm a firm believer that paranormal events are just fictional as we normally see on the internet. Most of the stories are fake and may confuse us on whether it's true or not. But after what I've experienced, it changed my whole perspective on the matter. It was a cold and rainy Saturday evening. It was so quiet, in fact, that you can only hear crickets and birds that night as I was working the night shift at the warehouse. I was silently working on documents while listening to one of my favorite songs on a low volume. On that same night though, we did have operation on the other end of the factory, which allowed me to inspect people withdrawing stock, which required documents that needed to be filled out. All of a sudden, I felt a strange feeling as if someone was watching me, but I ignored it and continued my duties for the night. I just so happened to take a glance at the window, and I saw a human figure with a white shirt slowly passing by, but I couldn't clearly see his face because it was blacked out. I thought this was rather odd, but I waited 3 to 5 minutes for him to knock on the door and ask me for permits, but it made me wonder, why is he taking so long to ask for referrals? So I decided to take a peek out of the window, looking at where he could possibly be standing, but I was definitely shocked. There's no one there. And then I even opened the door to check outside, but still, no one's around. There's no other way to go but away from the office, and the man was walking in the opposite direction towards a tall brick wall. The situation really left me at a loss for words. I was like, what the hell is going on? I clearly seen him pass in the window. I could feel my heartbeat so loud and fast, it was like coming out of my chest. While having this question in my head, I could feel a cold chill come over me. I walked back to my workstation, and I realized that I possibly may have witnessed a phantom. One night, me and my boyfriend were in bed, and he was already sleeping while I was watching Netflix on my phone. After an hour of watching Netflix, he moved and said, "Stop touching my feet. I'm trying to sleep." I was confused because I wasn't even moving. I just thought that maybe it was our dog. I just shrugged it off and continued watching Netflix. Fast forward 2 or more episodes, I decided to sleep. I was sleeping on my side, and around 2 or 3 a.m., I suddenly woke up, and something was telling me to lift my head up and look at the corner of the room. As I did, I saw a large shadow, but I wasn't scared. It was super tall, and I stared at it for a good minute, thinking I was just dreaming because I just woke up and it hasn't all processed yet. I was thinking to myself that why was that part of the room so dark? I have my Wi-Fi routed there and it's supposed to be lit up. It was super dark, but I could make out this tall figure. I decided to sleep it off and worry about it the next day. My boyfriend woke me up. He was super pissed at me because apparently I was moving around all night and he hadn't gotten much sleep. I went to pee, and when I came back I told him, "Hey, I really had a bad dream last night." He looks at me all confused and I continued, "Last night I thought that I woke up and saw a shadow in the corner." "I saw it too," he said. "I saw it when I woke up once I told you to stop moving." I was going to tell you, but I didn't want you to get scared, so I didn't say anything. I asked him what he saw, and when he told me, I got goosebumps all over my body. He said it was very tall, but I couldn't see its face. It was like a shadow, but in form of a man. If you were to ask me if I believed in the paranormal, I'll tell you I'm on the fence about it. If someone would tell me a house was haunted, I wouldn't believe them unless I myself experienced something out of the ordinary. I believe that creepy things do happen, but I like to go into situations with the mindset of trying to rule out every possible cause before I come up with a conclusion. If I write something off as just a coincidence or my mind playing tricks on me, then I will, and I'll leave it at that. This experience, though, was a little different. I still don't know exactly what happened, and thankfully, it hasn't happened since. I was on a Discord call with some of my friends, and it was late at night, maybe 10 or 11, and I decided to start going about my nightly routine and get settled in for the night while on call. I muted myself and went to brush my teeth, got my pillow all set up on my bed, and went to close my blinds in my window. That was when I noticed a man standing under a street lamp. I couldn't really see his face despite nothing really obscuring it, and he was wearing a suit. He wasn't too particularly tall, and I don't know what really stood out about him, other than just him just being there. I don't know why it gave me such an off feeling. I unmuted myself and sat back down at my desk, letting my friends know about this and joking around about maybe his Uber is late, or maybe his wife kicked him out. We also gave him the very creative name, Suit Man. After a few moments, I go back to the window and I see if he's moved. He indeed moved, and he was now standing in front of the across the street neighbor's backyard gate, which was visible from where I was, due to it being near the garage door. The longer I looked at him, I began to notice a couple of odd things. First of all, he wasn't facing the gate, and he was standing completely still. Second of all, I noticed that he wasn't triggering the neighbor's floodlights, which automatically came on when someone or something moved nearby. You had to cross over to the driveway to get to the gate, which would set the lights off. At this point, I'm a little freaked out, but still really intrigued, and so I decided to grab my phone and try to take a picture. However, when I turned to look back at where this person was, even though I've looked away for a few moments to grab my phone and pull up my camera, he was gone. I just decided, screw this, and closed my blinds. I stayed on a VC most of the night since I was a little freaked out still and didn't want to try going to sleep anytime soon after such an odd encounter. Although this was pretty creepy in itself, the weirdest part came after this. A few months after this, I would hear someone whistling while walking down the street at that same exact time each day and every day. It stopped recently, and I haven't heard it since, nor have I seen the suited man. Did she see an alien? Was she hallucinating? Well, let's together find out. The not real person that caused a woman to freak out before her flight will go wildly viral and gather a lot more views as well as variety of reactions from people on social media. We've seen a lot of strange and good moments happening on planes, but this one was arguably the strangest yet. The clip, which was originally posted by Knuckles Lawn Care, showed a woman freaking out as she believed she was sitting next to someone whom quote-unquote wasn't real. She later in the video was visibly shaken, saying, "I'm telling you that I'm getting off from this plane right now, and there is a reason why I'm getting off. And everyone can believe it or not believe it, I don't care. I don't give two Fs, but I'm telling you right now that MF is not real. And you can sit on this plane and die with him or not. I'm not going to." End quote. It surfaced on July 6, 2023, after being put on various social media sites. Speculations say that the woman was supposedly talking to the man in the green hoodie, as if he wasn't human, but something else. As another passenger recorded the cabin crew removing the woman's luggage after storming off of the plane, the man in the green hoodie doesn't say anything, nor does the person recording try to interact with him, as he sat there quietly in his seat. People claiming to be on the flight have popped up, revealing details about how the flight was delayed around 3 hours and the passengers were declaimed. They also reported that the woman was drinking at the bar before boarding the plane. The woman nor the man in the green hoodie has appeared anywhere else since, but people are definitely waiting for her side of the story. It may be taken at face value, but it definitely carries a creepy tone to it all. What do you think about this story? Comment down below.
I'm telling you, I'm getting the off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can...
Story time for you. I've tried like 2 times to record this, but I keep going over the 3-minute limit, and I don't want to do a part 1, part 2 type thing, so I'm going to try to be specific. I was on that flight. It was American Airlines. We were leaving Dallas-Fort Worth. I was sitting in the left aisle, about 3 rows back from this woman. She was sitting in the right aisle, and she had this very interesting exchange with some dude in a hoodie. I don't remember the color of the hoodie. I really, you know how memory is. When you're not super paying attention, you don't remember all the details. I had one headphone in, couldn't hear all the specifics of what happened, but I noticed this exchange between this woman and this dude in a hoodie. And it was kind of weird at the time because it seemed like no one else before she really started getting frantic, like was paying attention to this, but that makes sense. It was like a normal flight. This was after putting all the luggage away. We'd been on the plane for a little bit. It was before the flight attendant came over and gave the little spiel. And what I remember is she was having like a full-blown conversation with this dude in the hoodie. I'll call him the hoodie guy. She was having a full-blown conversation with hoodie guy. the weird thing was that he never once said a fucking word to her the whole time. And at the time, I don't know, I wasn't really thinking about it, but it was like it's like she would say something and he like would respond, but there was no exchange happening. It was just her getting more and more frantic, which, okay, if she's drunk and she's going crazy, then you would think the dude in the hoodie would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? But he was just like dead locked on her, like deep eye contact with her, like I don't want to feed into the conspiracies here, but like almost like she was like in a hypnosis type of thing. And she started getting more and more frantic to the point where then people started kind of noticing. Flight attendant came over, tried to calm her down, like, what's going on? She sat back down, but she kept looking over at this dude in the hoodie, and finally she was like done with it. And that's like when I really started paying attention, like, okay, what the fuck is going on? And that's when she was like, I can't do this. She started getting up, she started walking up to the front. And then the whole video thing happened. I didn't take a video of it. I was listening to a Stephen King audiobook. I wasn't like pulling out my phone to record this. And she didn't seem drunk to me, by the way. Just throwing that out there. I didn't see her drink. I mean, she seemed totally normal to me up until that point. The weird thing was, after she left the plane, the dude in the hoodie, which the flight attendant was like, did anything happen? And he still didn't say a word. He just went like, and like shrugged. The dude in the hoodie like looked around the plane and he looked back at me and he winked at me. And again, I didn't quite register it. I was like, okay, what the fuck was that about? I was like, maybe he's just being like an ass, like winking, like that was weird, wasn't it? But now that I look back, I realized that when he winked at me and it was his left eye looking back at me, it didn't wink like this. It winked like this.
Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. If you happen to enjoy this content, then please like and share amongst your friends and family. Make sure you comment any suggestions about this page to make it better. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. It's free, and you can change it in the future. Also, make sure that you hit that notification bell so that way you never miss a video. You happen to have story suggestions? Please send it to my email, darknessbelowstories@gmail.com. But until then, you guys stay safe out there. And remember to always be afraid of the dark.